Cool. What's happening, y'all? It's your man, Tenicio, DJ Fifth World, Say Anima. Man, you know, I actually kind of grew up in a non-traditional hip-hop setting, being that I actually grew up in the suburbs. And not only being in the suburbs, but literally being one of very few people of African descent in that particular area, hip-hop culture was something that really allowed me to gravitate towards what I felt was a legitimate representation of people of color. And so, yeah, I was born in the year 1978, and I can really remember even from maybe age 4 or 5, just actually having this affinity to what I was seeing displayed through, of course, radio and through television, through the culture. But I could say my first, when I say legitimate exposure, meaning going out and actually picking up an album or like intentionally trying to relate with it, was Run DMC's, let me think here. It was their first album, I should say that much. But then I remember for a birthday, I told my mother, like, this crew De La Soul, man, they're just like kind of blowing me away right now. This whole vibe that they're coming with, I got to gravitate and get what they have to offer. So I went out and bought 3 Feet High and Rising. And so that was kind of like a dive into just trying to really understand it. Everything else was just like, wow, all right, I see this, I'm feeling it, but now I want to really interpret it and study it and hopefully be a part of it. So that was the beginning for me, man. You know, and I covered all the elements as much as I could, you know what I mean? Of course, did a little break in here, tried my hands at, you know, doing aerosol art, and even made pause mixtapes when I was younger, you know, and then eventually just kind of, you know, developed myself and found my niche in those different areas. I'll say what it was that I remember going to a party that my parents were going to, so I couldn't have been no older than like 4 or 5, and they had just like a little dance circle going on, and I just vividly remember, man, I literally broke out into the worm, right? And started doing it. Now, mind you, I can't tell you like, oh, I was just thinking about like, yeah, I'm gonna do this awesome dance to show them what's new. I mean, I'm, you know, 5 years old, but I just remember it was like something just told me like, yo, do that dance that you seen. And so it was like, I just realized it was something innate, man. It's like it triggers almost like a genetic memory when you see somebody do something like that without even really understanding it, and then you just repeat it somewhere just totally organically and off the whim. So that would be a big moment for me, man. I mean, I think hip-hop is something where for the average person it's not so grandiose like, oh, I went to the concert or I saw so-and-so in the mall. It's like when I recognized it within myself, you know, that's when it was really important for me, man. You know, it was bigger than just seeing some superstar or something like that. As far as like really trying to legitimately expose myself, it was definitely through production and MCing. And so here in Atlanta, we have a local station called WRFG 89.3 FM. Many people here in Atlanta know about it. I mean, they've been like the catalyst for actually a lot of the big names, whether they were DJs on that station, radio hosts, or musicians. So, man, I would be bringing my music up there trying to get DJs to play it. Excuse me. And honestly, it was a struggle. You know, even in a quote-unquote community radio station like that where you don't have to have payola or anything, it actually was revealing, because now it's like, no, if your stuff ain't dope, you know, we ain't gonna play it. Versus if I was at a FM, you know, commercial station, might have been able to slip some money under. So I was like, all right, you know what? If y'all ain't gonna play my stuff, I mean, that could mean possibly that I'm just not good, or maybe I need to get on there and play my own stuff. So that's what I did, man. I actually went through the rankings of figuring out how to get a program, took the broadcasting class, and eventually got my own show. And I started playing my own music on the radio. And then from there, the program that I was a part of was a strip of hosts. It used to be called the World Party, and there was like 5 different days, 5 different hosts. We eventually changed that to what was called Global Drumbeat. So when Global Drumbeat came in, the other 4 DJs that existed there, we began to throw this party called Riveting Rhythms that I produced. And at that point, this is around about 2005, I realized like, wow, okay, I can't expect any of these guys to play the music that I play. So I got to figure this thing out. So literally like the very first party we threw, I asked one of the DJs like, look, man, just show me what to do with these and I'll play my own stuff. And I literally cut my teeth in a party and did decent, man, you know, because I understood beat matching and all of that. Like I said, I'd made pause mixtapes. I'm also a musician. I played instruments. So that part wasn't so foreign. It was just show me the technicals. and I cut my teeth on the dance floor, man, literally. For those that know of me, you know, I do a lot of work DJing-wise, promotions-wise in the indigenous African community. You know, like artists like Kanan, NECA, I mean, I've got wax from Kanan back to '03, you know, that he's given me personally. So, I mean, like, that was my niche. I was doing a radio show that's syndicated from here into Nigeria, in 15 states in Nigeria. So I was actually doing it here from Atlanta, producing it on my computer and sending it out over the internet, and they were broadcasting it over there. And by doing that show, it led me to move over there. I actually ended up hosting the red carpet for the very first MTV Music Awards they had in Africa. They call it the Mama Awards. And from just touching ground over there, man, and again, acquiring more music and doing what I needed to do, I came back here and I was like, man, I got to present this to the people. So that was like my first official set. And again, this was around about '07. So even though, again, I technically understood DJing, I fundamentally understood it, I didn't really put myself out there as a DJ till around about '07. But ever since then, man, I mean, I've actually been nominated a board of directors member of the only Nigerian record pool, which really pushes music for the entire continent. And I'm the only cat that's an African born in the States in an all Nigerian clique. So, you know, I could say that's kind of a fundamental story in a sense, you know. We've been taught, you know, through Zulu Nation, through Temple of Hip Hop, that this thing is a culture, you know. So for me, you know, like my 9 to 5 or my other passion, if you will, is farming, all right? So who says that farmer ain't hip hop, you know, because again, culturally, I incorporate a lot of lessons that I've learned through the culture. I've incorporated a lot of principles that I've learned from people that I just deal with, you know, and so the DJing aspect even in itself is kind of just a microcosm of an entire lifestyle. So you could take DJing, but you could take anything else that I'm doing and actually find it within that culture. And what I think is really missing now with the youth, you know, and with the next generation, if you will, is that cultural understanding. I personally have like no huge qualms, you know what I'm saying, with the musical side that's out now. But the fact that there's literally no attachment to just the holistic culture makes me realize why they don't see what, you know, maybe my generation and before are seeing, you know, so that they don't understand that, hey, even if you're not even a listener of the music, you still represent this culture. You know, I know people right now who are in their 40s and 50s who may not necessarily call themselves hip hop, but you can see in their mannerisms and they dress and they talk and they style, they swag, whatever you want to call it, that exemplifies it. Now, I may be able to get all scholarly and explain that to them, and then they might be like, oh, I never thought about that. But the point is, it's there. The influence hits you. So, you know, for me, it's very important, and it's just about understanding that this thing is a culture. A lot of us say that term so quickly and don't really stop and think about that, you know, but this motorcycle to the right of us, you know what I mean, whether the camera sees it or not, it's hip-hop, man. I mean, think about it. Rough Riders and cats like that push that image to like a whole nother level that people, though they were riding bikes before and though there was bike cliques and everything else, yo, they made it like, yo, this is us now, you know what I'm saying? And to close on this point, I heard even Kanye say like recently that hip-hop is the new rock stars, right? And I was like, if you really stop and think about it, man, we have technically always influenced popular culture, but it's at a point now to where it's just like, name another culture that's more influential. You know, it's like glam rock in the 80s, man. You was wearing spiked haircuts because of them, or you was wearing, you know, certain outfits because of the rock star back then. Hip-hop's the rock star now, man. You know, but it's a deep culture. It ain't just music. I'm gonna give you what you want so that you want what I have to give you, you know, and that's especially important for a DJ. Not to say that it's not important in all other, you know, principles and other values within hip hop and of course the elements, but again, it started with the DJ. And if, like, when people, again, still to this day, you know, even though we know what Nas meant by it, saying hip hop is dead, it's like, look, man, there's not one artist that came out. Let's just even start at the 90s, even though we can go back technically to the 80s and possibly even the 70s, and I can find artists who are still putting out new stuff. Let's just start with the 90s, since that's this era that everybody, like, jumps on. Man, none of these cats have stopped making music. But I find now that you get a lot of DJs, man, if you think about a party you even yourself go to, do you ever hear DJs just play, like, full sets now of all new stuff that ain't on the radio? it's always, yo, we're going to just play all the old stuff. And I'm like, I'm cool with that. I run that too. But like, break the new records. So for me, it's really, I shouldn't say it's been a challenge. It's actually been an accolade that I can say I'm always willing to give you something new. Now, I'm going to slip in the familiar, man. I'm going to give you what you want. But that's so that you want what I have to give you. I want you to be coming up like, yo, who is that? And that just, you know, I don't know how many cats are really taking that seriously anymore. I want to walk into a place and really only know about 10% of what I heard. Give me 90% new. So I'm like, yo, I'm behind. I need to go search. Just what I had the opportunity to do with being able to go, you know, across seas, man, you know, and visit the continent of Africa because, you know, of course, again, for a person of African descent born in the States, that's what many of us strive to do is just reconnect, if you will. You could have never told me. I mean, I'm actually thinking about it right now because you've asked me that it was hip hop that made that happen. I'm not one that would have believed that, you know, I couldn't have got over there, so I knew it was going to happen. But I'm really stopping and thinking about it right now. It's like, wow, I got to give hip hop the credit for that. You know, so I would say that's been the biggest achievement so far, man, because though, again, I don't have the fame and glory of like a De La or somebody who also travels, but like literally are like, you know, kings of the castle in other parts of the world, I still have my own level of notoriety when I leave this country and I can go to Nigeria. It's 150 million people strong now. I mean, so we're not talking about a small market. That's half the size of the U.S. And actually have some notoriety, that's a big deal, man. You know, that makes me feel proud. I never fronted on what this thing is about. You know, at the end of the day, if you choose to call yourself a hip-hopper, I mean, just like anything else, you ain't gonna go out there and call yourself a professional football player. And, you know what I mean, you don't know anything about it, but just, you know, hey, you know a couple of teams here and there, and you understand the fundamental rules of the game. Like, nah, I want to see you play the game and play it right and play it well. That's, to me, what I want to be remembered for. Now, again, does that mean I'm going to be the dopest DJ in the world? You know, who knows? But at the end of the day, the understanding of what's required and the mission to strive towards that means I have to have respect, of course, for the elders of this game, first and foremost. All right, so big ups to Kool Herc and everybody else after him. I got to respect them, and I have to understand what they did, why they did it, and how they are continuing to do it now. And then I have to be able to take that and figure out, all right, what part do I play in continuing that legacy? So again, young, old, you name it, it's your obligation to know what this thing is about and to never forget. And I could say that that's something that I don't care if only me, if I'm the only person that knows that I did that, I mean, I can go to sleep saying I've represented this culture to the fullest, you know, without a shadow of a doubt.